Hey, good morning and welcome to Funky Rainbow, this picture book filled Saturday morning. All of this week, we've been looking, pulling out all the picture books from our shelves, looking through them, looking to see which ones we've loved the most, which characters really appeal to us. And there's really, believe me, nothing quite as pleasurable as spending a whole week looking through some marvelous picture books. Lovely to see you all. This morning I can see Divya Menon here saying good morning, everyone. I can see Arunji saying good morning. I can also see Avyukt and Ameya Nair saying good morning. How lovely to know that our favorite friends, much like our favorite picture books, are right here. It is, of course, with great pleasure that I say that the picture book Bazaar is back by popular demand. When we closed season 2 and asked people to write in about some of the themes that they'd like to see at the Bazaar, we had several requests for picture books because from the time that we've started the Bazaar in May 2020, I think we've done two exclusive picture book bazaars. So the thing is, there was an overwhelming request for picture books. And I mean, how do we pull out a few from our collection and showcase them? So, I mean, I'm sure 1/3 of Funky Rainbow's collection of children's books will be picture books from so many different publishers. So what we said we'd do is to choose picture books whose characters we just love. And that's exactly why all of last week, we've been riffing through our picture books and feeling truly happy. I know many of our friends join us on Instagram as well, week after week, and we're delighted that you're here to watch the show. I want to say that, when we stream our guest conversation, I'm afraid we can't stream it on Instagram. And if you could, at that point, either switch to Funky Rainbow's YouTube channel or to our Facebook page, that would just be lovely, because you'd be able to catch the conversation with our guest of the day. And today we really have a special guest, a picture book passionista, as I like to call her. And, that conversation will happen at 12:30 today. So at that point in time, if you can switch, it would be lovely. So picture book characters we love. I mean, even that was a really tall ask. I mean, like I said, more than 1/3 of our collection would be picture books. So how do we pick characters? How do we not put every single book that we have in our collection into the Bazaar stream? And so we decided we'd go with human characters. I mean, these are just efforts to pare down the lists, because otherwise choosing is like a massive job, really. And I can see Sridevi Sridharan joining us saying, you're doing an amazing job. Keep it going. Thank you so much for that thumbs up, Sridevi. And, I think the job is good because all of you are watching and encouraging us as well. So what we decided to do to make our choices, to pare our choices down a little bit more, was to pick human characters we love. So which means some months later, we could definitely do a picture book bazaar with non-human characters. I can see Arunji saying, I love Amachi. Kids rolled with laughter when I did a class. Oh yes, what's not to love about good old Amachi? She's absolutely a delight. And what we've also tried to do, Arun, is to pick picture books with human characters that we have not focused on before, because all of you watching know that in all our bazaars we recommend a clutch of picture books. And we have many favorites, including Amachi, of course. So this time we've tried to pick human characters whom we love and perhaps have not introduced too many times before. The whole idea is to give you an introduction to more and more books in our collection. I mean, we have 9,000 plus of them. So just imagine we could do bazaars for the next several decades, I'm sure, and as long as all of you are watching and enjoying it. I think Divya is here and she says, we're so excited to know that Richa Jha will be on the Bazaar. Been waiting to meet her, quotes, unquotes, my own personal favorite author from the picture book world. I hope to catch her conversing very soon. Absolutely. I didn't want to give out the name till I mean, not that, people don't know, but we wanted to introduce her later in the show. Like I said, a wonderful picture book enthusiast, publisher, and writer, Richa Jha of Pickle Yolk Books, joining us later in the show at 12:30. She will be here, and we'll talk to her about picture books and what it takes to really enjoy them with readers of all ages. I can see Grey Matters, Archana Natraj saying, I'm so looking forward to it. Picture books are my absolute favorites. So without further ado, I'm going to just start off on, my recommendations. I do want to say, though, I'm a great words person. It's all about constructing sentences, having the right words in there, making sure that you convey what you want to, perfectly with words. But picture books, the pictures in picture books really speak 1,000 words. And if there's a picture book that captures your heart, the role that those pictures play in transforming the reading experience is just something quite amazing. And I can see from so many of you commenting how much adults love picture books as well. And I'm really hoping that in the course of this bazaar, we rediscover the magic of some wonderful picture books from the Indian children's publishing space. I can see Ritvika Roy here. Good morning, saying so excited to see Richa Jha. I love her work so much. Read I and I recently, and it's a beautifully resonant book. How very lovely. We are so glad that we're doing the first event around I and I, at Funky Rainbow's Book Bazaar. So like I said, what is it about picture books that just elevates them to, to a wonderful literary genre? I think, it's the thing of experiencing a story and pictures at the same time, both the visual and the textual representation of a story, just, bringing the magic of, the story alive for readers of all ages. That's one thing that I distinctly remember. I also, remember the experience of being read aloud too. Picture books so conducive to being read aloud. Whether you're reading it, aloud to yourself, you're reading it aloud to a child, you're reading it aloud to a teenager, or you're reading it aloud to another adult. That magic of listening to words. And I think picture books lend themselves so beautifully to being read aloud. Grey Matters again saying, hey, we didn't have access to so many wonderful Indian picture books when we were kids. Absolutely. A lot of my picture book reading, and I'm sure as of all of us at Team Funky Rainbow, would have been Russian picture books. And those fabulous illustrations still imprinted in my mind. There is one picture book, I actually can't quite remember the name of the story, and I can't quite remember the story even. I do know that it had a rooster, and there were these beautiful cloud swirls on the pages, which to me at that age, and I must have been maybe 6 or maybe 5 or 6 when I was reading that, when I was being read that story to, those clouds distinctly looked like jalebis to me, like filled jalebis, because they were orange and they were pinkish orange. And, just see the power of that visual. I remember in part the story, I remember, but its illustrations so much more significantly. So as we recommend, let's try to discover the charm of each of these books and why we need to keep them. Why we need to keep reading them. And I'm sure all of you who are watching, I can see so many comments coming in. You're all big picture book lovers for sure. All adults who utterly and absolutely love picture books. I would love to hear what resonated with you in some of the books that, we've chosen to showcase today. And Divya saying children read pictures first before they even think of reading words. Absolutely. That's why picture book authors are the most special people on earth. Indeed, they are. And, that must sound like music to the ears of several creators, writers, and illustrators who've put together some fabulous picture books in the Indian children's context. I'm going to begin with, I know Arun, referred to Amachi's glasses, but the wordless picture book that I'm going to choose to focus on today is this utterly delightful one called Snip. I can't tell you how much I love, love, love Snip. I mean, it's a picture book that brings a smile to your face anytime you pick it up. If you're having a bad day, there's just one thing that I'd suggest: pick up a copy of Snip and just go through it. This one, by Kanato. Sorry? The Golden Cockerel by Alexander Pushkin. Divya, I'm not sure. I actually visited Alexander Pushkin's house when I made a trip to Moscow some years ago, and I did see a copy of The Golden Cockerel. I'm not sure it's that one really, but it was really about a, resplendent rooster, flying here, there, everywhere, which is why the clouds came into the pictures, and the jalebi swirls of the clouds are what, I remember so distinctly. I'm really not sure. I've been trying through these years to find out what that book is. I'm afraid my own copy not there anymore at home. But yes, for those of you who can help me find that book, I would utterly be delighted, to encounter it again. But to come back to Snip, I mean, what works marvelously with Kanato's book is it begins right from the cover. Look at these delightfully naughty children looking at each other. I mean, you don't even need to see anything more in the book to know that they're going to be up to all kinds of mischief. And indeed, Avi and Toto really do get up to all kinds of mischief. I mean, they are playful siblings. And what do you think playful siblings who've been left alone at home by their parents, what do you think they do? Of course, they're going to get up to mischief and mayhem, and Avi and Toto indeed do. And you can see just right here, Toto snipping off her hair with a pair of scissors. And then, ooh la la, what happens? Absolutely. When they discover that they've snipped off each other's hair, what are they going to do? And what of their parents who've gone off to get some chores done? What's going to happen when they come back? This is such a delightful picture book, absolutely wordless, but telling you so many stories, giving you so many, so many trains of thought in your head to narrate, a story to a younger child. I can just imagine the pleasure of looking through this book over and over again with our youngest readers. But, here's what I say: don't age no bar. Read it even with an older reader. I can tell you that you're going to be full of some ideas of mischief once you finish reading this wonderful, this wonderful picture book. Actually reading the illustrations, that's what you're going to do when you read Snip by Kanato Jimo. This one is published by Pratham, priced at 50 rupees. And, today I don't know whether I should really be telling you about the age groups that these books are meant for. Picture books are timeless, they're ageless. Pick it up if you like the theme and if you enjoy it. All these books, I mean, we've got tons of them. We're going to be recommending maybe 15 of them in the course of this program. But we've got tons of them in our book Bazaar. Click on the link www.funkyrainbow.com. Go to the tab that says Book Bazaar. There's a drop-down menu that says season 1, 2, 3. Click on season 3 and it'll take you to picture book characters we love. Hundreds of books to choose from there. And I truly hope you will pick them up from Funky Rainbow if there are a couple that really interest you. Some of the books are up on discounted prices, so do check them out. We move to our next recommendation. And Arun says, I miss sitting with Usha Mukunda and reading picture books. I have learned a great deal from her. Absolutely, so well said. We've all learned so much from Usha Mukunda, and I'm delighted to tell you, Arun, that we had a mail from her this morning asking for some picture books that she wants sent to her. I mean, we just consider it like her blessing to us to get on and recommend good picture books to our audiences watching. Ritvika saying picture books have no age. That's also the beauty of children's literature. They speak to all ages, something that we've completely believed in. All ages and all experiences, all themes encompassed in the world of picture books. I'm going to move to a book that we utterly love at Funky Rainbow, Mala's Silver Anklets. I mean, Mala is got to be the cutest child that we have encountered in the picture book world. And this one, written by Annie Besant and illustrated by Nancy Raj. What is the story all about? And you can see Mala's dad is, cleaning his scooter, and who creeps up right behind him? You can see hiss and boo and wah ha 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 ha. And she creeps up behind everybody, giving them the scare of their lives. And everybody jumps out of their skins. And you can see, oh my God, she's scaring the cat, she's scaring her dad, she's scaring her mother, she's scaring her grandparents. What do they decide to do? Well, how do they know that she's going to come? You have to read, and I love Nancy Raj's illustrations. I mean, there's so much to the story that gets added with the illustrations. In fact, you can imagine that, yourself in that situation, just looking at Nancy's charming, beautiful illustrations in this book. Arun saying Mala is another fantastic book, and there we are recommending just that one for you. What does Mala's mother do? Thank God parents have their wits about them always. And I can see many of you nodding your heads in agreement, perhaps. Mala's mom comes up with a wonderful idea for us to know that Mala's just right there. You have to read this wonderful picture book to, and you have to experience it with a child, who is probably going to be chuckling away at every page when Mala's up to all kinds of tricks. You really do need to, experience that pleasure with a child to know, the beauty and charm of this story. We'd recommend it for 2+-year-olds, but like I said, ageless, timeless. So, any age, it absolutely works. Our next recommendation is another one from Tulika, also something that we've loved for the longest time ever. This is Ikidoki, written by Sandhya Rao and illustrated by Ranjan De. And there's just something to the book. Its illustrations and the story blending in perfectly. I mean, text, visuals, and text coming together seamlessly to give you a great story experience. It's a Marathi folktale which has been retold by Sandhya Rao. And you know what it's all about? It's these two sisters, Ek Keswalli, who has one hair on her head, and Dhon Keswalli, who has two hairs on her head. And boy, Ranjan De's illustrations, look at that charm of the way A. Keswalli and Dhon Keswalli have been drawn. I mean, he's truly, an experimental artist, and I love the triangular shapes almost all through the book. Really stylized illustrations that, bring alive the story as you read them and, make you chuckle as you go page after page. These are actually the Tulika word bird books, and you can see there are little word birds that explain what the words could mean, because that means they haven't taken away the Marathi flavor, even the names Ek Keswali and Dhon Keswali. So they have those explanations saying the girl with one hair is Ek Keswali and Dhon is the girl with two hairs, and you can see how well they are drawn. Now, of course, what happens when somebody has two hairs? What do they choose to do? They choose to bully the sister. Their sisters choose to bully the sister who has only one hair. So Doki, as their the nickname goes, and that's why Ikidoki. Doki is always bullying Eki. And one day, Eki gets so fed up, she runs away into the forest, and Doki runs after her, and they meet an old woman. What happens? What life lessons are tucked away when they meet the old woman? And is it really a hair raising tale? Whether you have one or two hair, is it truly a hair raising tale? Like I said, you can really see Ranjan Dey's stylized illustrations, and the lovely thing is that Sandhya Rao, who's an established writer of children's books, this was her first one. Her first children's book ever. I mean, for somebody who has so many of them at the moment, it's really special that this is her first one. And I do know she dedicated the story to her two grandmothers, Aji Baji and Lakshmi Aji. That's what she, has done, dedicated the book to her two grandmothers. It's a lovely picture book, and I think you should read it with your own grandmothers or your children, or get your children to read it with their grandparents to absolutely enjoy the charm of this one. Recommended for 4+ year olds and published by Tulika. The next, set of recommendations that I have are, there is, of course, can't be without, introducing Madhuri Purandare's characters to you. And I know we have introduced several of them, across various bazaars, whether it's Yash, whether it's Radha's family. But today we want to focus on Anu. Anu from Daddy's Mo and Aunt Jui's baby. Just look at that. Look at the way Madhuri has illustrated. There's Anu right on the cover of the book, looking at her father. Now, what does Anu really like about her father? And I just think, like, see these illustrations. Look at this beautiful illustration of Anu, with her father, because the one thing that Anu really likes about her father is his mo, or mustache. And you know what it is like, really, what it is like to have a mustache, and what do you do when you see one? Well, Anu gives us lots of splendid ideas on what can be done, if you have a mustache, or what people with mustaches can do. Look at this picture. She imagines her father as a Raja with a wonderful mustache. And, in the next story, of course, you've got to find out what happens to Anu and Daddy's Mo. But in the next one, Aunt Jui's baby, which is a lovely book, if you're welcoming a new child into the house and you already have one. The thing is, Anu and her mom decide to go to visit Aunt Jui. And what happens when they go to visit Aunt Jui? They're going to visit Aunt Jui because Aunt Jui has a new baby. And the minute they go to Aunt Jui's house, Mummy and Auntie are just completely fussing over the baby. And you know what happens? Anu thinks the baby is rather silly, like many, many siblings absolutely do. And I don't know whether they outgrow it ever. Obviously, many siblings often thinking that their other siblings are truly very silly. And she just doesn't like it, how much they fuss over, how much Ai and her aunt fuss over the new baby. I can see Vidya Auntie, this is our favorite author. Ameya copies most of the characters, and most of the things that characters like Radha and Yash do. Oh my God. You must send us pictures of her copying. I know, your mum had told us that she, piled up pillows and, imitated one of the Yash books, exactly replicating what she saw in the series. Now, if she's like Anu, who's one of our favorite characters, you must send us pictures of you. We would be absolutely delighted to see Ameya being like Anu, or being like herself and imitating Anu. This one, published by Jyotsna Prakashan, priced at 100 rupees. Our next recommendation this morning, and it's again a book that we have absolutely chuckled over always at Funky Rainbow. This is Kurukata, and written by Sumi Chandrasekharan and illustrated by Zafuko Yamamoto. Is such a fabulous story of Ponnu. Now, the thing is, the book absolutely resonated with me. I've grown up listening to the story of Kurukata. I know my parents have narrated this story of a forgetful man like Ponnu. He must have been called something else in my story. I'm assuming he must have been called Mani in my story, basically, when my parents were narrating it to me. But I do remember my dad used to get a Tuesday off. Tuesdays were his days off, and every Tuesday was Kurukata story time, about forgetful Ponnu. And the thing is, you would wait, even if you knew the story, you would wait eagerly to chuckle at the right places, to make the right kinds of noises. And so Kurukata, when it came onto our shelves, I was, absolutely delighted to see that story, written by Sumi Chandrasekhar. So what is this about? Well, Ponnu, who lived in Kerala, was a very, very forgetful guy. He could remember almost nothing. How many of us resonate with that, basically, right? You have to get somewhere and you have to take some 5 things, but you've forgotten 4 of the 5 things. Now, what happens most of all, he forgets the names of the foods that he wants to eat. Jesus, what a serious problem, memory problem that is. Now, how do you think he can ask for something that he wants to eat? And you can look at these illustrations that add so much more to the story. He's a forgetful guy, but the minute you see him for having forgotten the toothbrush, you're doubling over in laughter, you're chuckling, about how forgetful Ponnu really is. Now, how can he ask for what he wants to eat if he has forgotten its name? Of course, memory tips aplenty come to him from all kinds of people, and you can see the spread where he's thinking of idlis and dosas, and he's thinking of all kinds of foods, and there is a memory tip that comes his way, and he decides he's going to do just that. He's going to recall the names of all the foods that he wants to eat, and he decides that he's going to keep telling them as he gets on a journey to visit his friend's house. And the friend is really known for making Kurukata. Does he remember? Does he eat Kurukata? What happens? You've got to read this absolute hilarious story to find out. This one, published by Tota Books, recommended for 4+-year-olds, priced at 195 rupees. It's like a hilarious read. It's a hilarious read. Kids are going to be laughing while reading this one, but so are the adults. A clutch of more recommendations, that I'm going to make. So there's another, character. Of course, we love Ponnu. So in each of the books, we've picked them because we love particular characters. And in Kurukata, it's certainly Ponnu. Even if his wife Janaki is quite spunky as well, but we do really love Ponnu. Our next recommendation this morning is this charming story called Veena and the Cupboard of Curiosities. What's not to love about a curious girl? And you know that we have why girl in our collection, and there's this about Moina who goes why, but this Veena is another curious character whom we utterly and absolutely love. I can see Ritvika saying, speaking from an academic perspective here, one of the best things about Indian picture books is how much they resist and oppose internalized biases like colorism through their illustrations. Yes, I really feel we've come a long way, at least with a certain clutch of books, to defy stereotypes of all kinds. And that's why at Funky Rainbow, we're constantly requesting people to pick up, yes, of course, pick up, the international children's books. I mean, picture books. There are wonderful ones from Oliver Jeffers and from so many other, writers and illustrators. But the Indian ones too, they are so set in our context, and those biases that they try to, and the books that try to get rid of these biases, either by way of illustration or by way of text, so relevant to our times, our, experiences, our discoveries, and our memories, really. So we would be always want you to consider, if you're doing two, international children's books, do 10 Indian children's books, is what we say basically. Now, we do love Veena because she's so delightfully curious. This one by Sneha Uplekar, and written and illustrated by Sneha Uplekar. And it's wonderful how, some of the nicest ones are often written and illustrated by the same person. I mean, this is not to say that, books, there are no books that, two different people haven't done. But, when we were looking through, several in our collections, the ones that made us go, aha, often were ones that are written and illustrated by the same person. And I really wonder, maybe it gives you a better control over the story, better grip on it when you're writing and illustrating it. Now, what happens? Veena had a school holiday and her mother and father were not at home. And what did Veena do? She was going to spend her time reading and playing. And there was Aji. Aji was at home, and Aji had warned Veena not to make a mess. Now, what was Veena hoping to do? She was hoping to get out of Aji's hair, and she was hoping to play outside. But, and you can see this illustration, it starts to rain outside and she's stuck inside, and she's going to have to figure out how she's going to keep herself entertained inside with a rather strict grandma who said, don't make a mess. And the lovely thing is, Veena has a companion. And who is Veena's companion? A lovely, charming mouse. And I love the name of the mouse. The mouse is called Rasayani. I'm like, come on, that's the name for a mouse. The next time your kids, come see a mouse around the house, give it a cute name like Sneha Uplekar has come. So Veena and Rasayani, what are they doing? Well, they wander of all things under the sun into Aji's room. Aji has just finished lunch and nodded off. She's not in the room. She's sitting in her chair and has nodded off. Now what happens? And there is the Aji's cupboard, which of course Veena absolutely decides to open. And from there on, the course of the story is not, life is never going to be the same again. What happens? Does Aji blow her fuse, or does Aji absolutely join Neha in a curiosity quest? You are going to be so charmed by this book, and you're going to so enjoy its story. It's something that is going to resonate with you and with readers of all ages. This one published by Jyotsna Prakashan. I mean, like I said, recommending these, I mean, we'd say 4+, 5+, but well, you can start reading picture books to a newborn. You can read them to a 12-year-old. You read them to an 18-year-old. And I'm sure our guest today, Richa Jha, will have some wonderful things to share about that. I can see KS joining us, and she says, "Hello, so lovely to see you. We're delighted that you've joined us at the Picture Book Bazaar. I know many of these books have made their way into your home, KS. Do check if any of your favorites are in this list that we are recommending." Our next recommendation this morning is this wonderful one from Pickle Yolk Books. And you all know Richa Jha is the founder, the publisher at Pickle Yolk Books. And what is extraordinary about Pickle Yolk Books is the fact that their stories have, their picture book stories are, visually stunning and have a lot of nuance, a lot of layers, a lot of things that you can discover each time you pick up the page and each time you read it, either by yourself or with a child or with an adult. It's just wonderful how Richa manages to bring out books that pack so much emotion and so much experience into these pages. And one of our favorites from her collection is The Tree Boy by Srividya Venkat and illustrated by Nayantara Surendranath. And of course, that brings me to the point about picture books. Is it the contribution of the writer? Is it the contribution of the illustrator? Well, the best picture books are put together when the twain meet wonderfully and the twain meld wonderfully. And I think in this one, Tree Boy, Nayantara Surendranath and Srividya have collaborated marvelously with Richa Jha to bring out this lovely book. Now, what is the story about? And like I said, you can expect really unusual themes from Pickle Yolk's books. And this is not to say that they're not fun or they're not serious or they're not, that they don't have, specific themes. But the point is they are usually wonderfully fluid and are open to myriad interpretations. You can, depending on where you are and what you're doing and where you are in life, interpret them in so many ways and arrive at wonderful eureka moments. Now, what is this one about? I love the way the story begins. It says, Sid was not always a tree. Wow, that's a great starting line if ever there was one. Why was he not always a tree, and why did he become a tree? Instantly, you are dragged into the story. And of course, it all begins with him missing, on saving a goal. He's playing with his friends and he misses an opportunity to save a goal. He's truly mad, and he just says, when he sits down in the night to write his diary, and he's mad that he missed that goal, he just sort of says, "Silly tree, I don't ever want to be you." Gosh, so much like children, isn't it? Or so much like adults, something else, something is bothering you, but you just decide to write and vent your anger on something else. So that's what happens. He says, "Go away, I don't want to be you." He looks at the plant in his room and he says, "Go away, I absolutely don't want to be you." And lo and behold, he turns into a tree the next morning. My God, what strange things happen when you least expect them. What a hilarious story it is. If you want to see the humor in it, what a multi-layered story it is. If you want to read greater meaning, is it about acceptance? Is it about being comfortable in your skin? So many wonderful themes that resonate from, The Tree Boy, written by Srividya Venkat and illustrated by Nayantara Surendranath. And I just love some of these illustrations. This is about Sid being a tree and how annoyed he is that the birds on the tree, that is him, are chirping 24/7. You've got to pick up, the fabulous Pickle Yolk books and, enjoy the stories and illustrations, particularly The Tree Boy, priced at $350, and absolutely a jolly, thoughtful, good read. Our next recommendation this morning is, I was just checking the time to see whether we've gone. There's always more books to recommend than we have time for. Our next recommendation this morning is a new book from One Inch Margin. Many of you know that One Inch Margin has been set up by Sham, our partner at Funky Rainbow. And this charming little picture book that came out from their stables about a month or so ago, called Choti, is written by Anam Fatima and illustrated by Grace Stroke. In the good tradition of a picture book, it so fabulously combines text and illustration. I've always loved Grace Stroke's illustrative style, having worked with him for over 20 years now. I mean, there is just some jadoo in those pictures that bring words alive so fabulously. And in this one, Choti, we love the character of Choti. There is, of course, the story is narrated from the perspective of Choti's elder sister, who is really puzzled about why the world thinks Choti is a bit different. And just look at that page. Look at the page where the world's eyes are popping out because Choti doesn't conform to what people think is normal. Like I said, the best picture books, clubbing, illustration, text and illustration so fabulously, the illustrations taking you into far greater discoveries, the text nudging you on in that journey, but the illustration really opening up splendid journeys in your mind. Now, what happens? She is truly puzzled. To her, Choti is just her sister. And why is the world looking at her so differently? You have to read the book to find out. But what you have to read it for is the fact that it's the story of two sisters, and that priceless bond that exists between family, that exists between sisters. You have to, of course, read it for the fact, and this is definitely one of my favorite illustrations in the book, for the fact that Choti is just an absolute sweetheart. We love the way she responds to situations that occur in the course of the story. It's a beautiful, charming, and wonderfully illustrated picture book in which text and illustration come together to tell a really heartwarming tale. The book and its author, won the Jury Choice Award 2018 at the Tata Lit Live My Story contest. So there is a winner of the book every way with Choti. Do consider picking it up, all of you who don't have it already. This one published by One Inch Margin and priced at 200 rupees. Muttama says absolutely that she wants to give the book 1,000 stars. We're not giving away the story because these are stories that have to be discovered as you read them, as you read the pictures and you read the text. Our next recommendation this morning is from Little Choti. We move on to Little Zai of Salim Mamu and Me. Salim Mamu and Me. You know who Salim Mamu is. And for those of you who don't know, Salim Mamu, he is none other than Salim Ali, the bird man of India. Now, of course, the protagonist of the book is the author of the book as a young girl. This story written by Zai Whittaker and illustrated by Prabha Malya. Again, wonderfully clubbing, text and illustration to tell such a fantastic story. Now, Zai's uncle is a man of India. And, Salim, everybody knows, the name is synonymous with birds and bird watching. Now, if you have a birding expert in your family, can you ever be able to identify more birds with him? What happens? You trudge off on a morning nature walk, you trudge off to see birds somewhere, and even when you're thinking up the names of the books, the expert has obviously got the answers. So what happens to little Zai? She is absolutely overwhelmed by the fact that she can't identify even the teeny tiny pipit that is sitting right under her nose. And soon, in a while, with the pressure, with the rest of the family too, like chipping in and identifying birds and like spotting the right things, it is just absolutely overwhelming for this young girl. I mean, somebody has seen an orange headed ground thrush, somebody else has seen, like I said, a cockatoo, and this poor little girl is just feeling left out. And look at Prabha Malya's illustrations. That being left out is so wonderfully conveyed. There are just the words that say that she's left out, but look at the way the pictures convey her being left out. And soon, she is utterly and absolutely overwhelmed. Now, what does that do to the young girl? You have a superstar uncle, and you have a bird aware family with whom you live. And what do you end up doing? Do you abandon bird watching altogether? For those of you who know Zai, you know that she's one of our finest naturalist writers for young readers. She works at the Madras Crocodile Bank, and happily for us, we know that that didn't happen. But how did the child overcome this not so small problem? And I'm sure there are many kids in whom we know in and around us who have these problems which we brush away as small problems, but they're really not so small problems for them. Such a charming portrait of Birdman of India as like a as a forgetful man, but also as a man who's completely passionate about birds and how he's able to identify them, and in classic Zai style, humor just in every page of the book. We recommend this to all readers. I can see Nalini Sorensen here this morning. You'll be delighted to know that we have so many of your characters in our picture book characters. We love Bazaar, Nalini, but this one is a real must. You are definitely going to be chuckling when you read these, when you go through these pages. This one meant for 6+-year-olds and priced at 165 rupees. Our next recommendation, and I hope this is new, and I can see Nalini Sorensen saying, yay, of course we've got Papa's Marathon. Of course we've got, Dada's Useless Presents. We do love those characters. We love characters who make us laugh. I mean, we just remember them with so much gladness, Nalini, and I'm so glad that you do have these wonderful characters in your picture books. Our next one, and I'm really hoping this is, a new recommendation. I'm sure some of you already know it, but we love the character of Piecekumar. Just look at that book. Just look at this one, written and illustrated by Indu Harikumar. You can already see from the cover that stitching, tailoring, fabric, they all play such an important role in Kumar's life. Now, what is this story about? And Indu, we know, that she is such a craft person herself, like such a stitching, fabric, paper person herself. And it's wonderful to see how she's brought that passion into her picture book. So Kumar, the protagonist, of course, loves making things. And don't we know children who, make things just out of anything and everything that we can find around? We have one such child right in our midst, who'll pick up stray pieces of paper, glue sticks, buttons, felt pens, old boxes. We discard nothing at Funky Rainbow because of Sham's son, Aaron, who's a lot like Kumar and loves to make things. Now you can see he made books, he made toys, he makes all kinds of things using the stuff that is lying around. He would even sew dresses for his doll with old fabrics, and that's why Amma lovingly called him my cut piece Kumar. Just look at that picture, Amma and Kumar. Now, what is the story about? Soon, one day, Kumar learns that there's going to be one more person coming to the family very soon. And he decides he's going to have to make something really special for this new person. And what does he do? What does a person who can make anything with his hands, what does he do? Such a charming picture book from Ekalavya, so beautifully written and illustrated by Indu Harikumar, bringing alive the magic of working with your hands. How does Kumar resolve his dilemma? Does he resolve his dilemma? And what is it that he makes for the new member who's going to be in their family very, very soon? Published by Ekalavya and priced at 95 rupees. Going to pick out a clutch of more, recommendations before we get into our 5 at 20 segment, and also at the new arrivals. Maybe I should just quickly say hello to a bunch of people who are there and who've joined us at the Bazaar. Nalini Sorensen saying, it looks gorgeous. If you're referring to Cut Piece Kumar, it absolutely is, Nalini. It is just a fabulous book. Anjani Rajagopal, Sridevi Swaminathan, Bhavna Kittur, Nandini Nair, so delighted to see you. Of course, we've got the Pranav books in our picture book collection. We're trying, though, to recommend ones that we haven't introduced to the audience, to our audiences before. But if you look at the Bazaar, so many picture book characters we love. Anju Tore, Priyanka Mishra, Beyond Books, Matthew Jacob, Savio. Lovely to see you here, Savio, this morning. Delighted to know that one of our finest illustrators, someone that kids love because of the work that he's done at Tinkle, watching us at a picture book Bazaar. Savio, I hope we have some of your favorites in here, amongst the recommendations we have made. Ride Home, what a pleasure to see you here, Megha. I truly hope, and I do know we have some Tulika books, so you must be quite pleased about that. But I do hope we have some of your favorites in there. Nia Parikh, lovely to see you here, Niyati. Gala Pinnal, Sharmudev, Shonali, Kavita, Shanaz, Shonali Sujit, The Proud Reader, Lavina, Adidev Press, lovely to see you. Divya Menon, Avyukta Nameya Nair, Arunji, Rupa Baliga, what a pleasure to see you. Sridevi Sridharan, Grey Matters, Ritvika Roy, KS, Megha Gupta, Sarvam Kali, Shruti Sri Raghunath, lovely to see you at a Bazaar after ages, Shruti. And I know picture books are your particular favorites. And Nalini Sorensen, just wonderful to see so many friends watching us at the Bazaar this morning. I'm going to get on with a couple of more recommendations. I love this one from Karadi Tales very, very much, called Letters to Krisha. Now, why do we love Krisha so much? Actually, it's written by Parinita Shetty and illustrated by Sahitya Rani. And the thing is, the story begins with the fact that Krisha has had an operation, and she has a surprise waiting for her when she gets back home after the operation. There's a lot of excitement, and that's the only thing that we know about Krisha when the book begins. And you know what's happened when she finally when she gets back to school, there are all her classmates who have written letters to her while she is away to keep her updated on what's happening at school. And what is lovely is that the character of Krisha, as well as the characters of the children who've written the letters, comes alive so beautifully in this letter format. For instance, you can see one of these, it's the first letter is, from Miss Zarina, who's the class teacher. Says, Dear Krisha, we heard that you are in the hospital. Class 3A misses you. Your classmates are going to write letters to tell you what we've been doing while you're away. Luckily for us, your brother has agreed to be our postman. Thank God for siblings. Josh is going to stop by our classroom at the end of every day to see if we have any messages for you. We're thanking him with a big fat hug, okay? Feel better soon and do come back in time to learn the fractions. Miss Zarina, a good teacher in every way. And look at Sahitya Rani's illustrations. So many things that you will, glean about a chaotic classroom, right from the illustrations. And there's always something really special about an epistolary format, about a letter format in books. And you can see that each one of her friends, this one is Astha, says, Dear Krisha, Miss Zarina told us you're going to have an operation to take your appendix out, APPENDICS out, crossed by Miss Zarina and marked and the correct spelling put on there. We love Miss Zarina. I definitely love Miss Zarina. Now, there are so many things that you find out about Krisha, about how much her friends love her, and about each of these characters. And there's a surprise, and it's got to do with fractions, folks. You've got to read this book to enjoy the charming, the understanding a character through letters, understanding the other characters in the book through letters as well. And of course, experience a wonderful surprise right at the end. I can see Megha saying, Salim Mamu is such, a fabulous personal memoirs, and we do need more books on our environmental heroes. Absolutely. I do remember Arunji telling us in a previous Bazaar that, more books on the environment. I mean, even if we have hundreds of them, we need a lot more. And Zai, writing with so much flair and flourish and with such ease, to tell the story of, Salim Ali, the Birdman of India, but as well as the story of her younger self. It is indeed a wonderful book, Megha. But to come back to letters, Letters for Krisha, priced at 250 rupees, published by Color Details. Really a wonderful book for you, to use with your children and with, to read yourself as well. Our next recommendation, again from Karadi, and I know, it's been a long time since I read this one, called The Mustache Man, and this one written by Priya Ramanathan and illustrated by Garima Gupta, is a laugh aloud picture book set in the little village of Nekgaon. And you know why it's Nekgaon? Well, Nek, I'm sure, means everything good and proper, well, or honest and upright. Now, everything expectedly is perfect in Nekgaon. From the time the cock crows to the time that sun sets, everything goes perfectly at Nekgaon. And if you were to take the Golden Temple Express, which is the picture that I showed you right at the beginning, which runs between Bombay and Amritsar every day, the train stops at 18 stations, and one of them is Nekgaon. Now, what happens in Nekgaon? One day from the express train, at Nekgaon, the thing is, what is special about Nekgaon? Well, everything is absolutely, utterly perfect over there. So it's rather boring. Nothing quite happens in Nekgaon. What is the moral of that story? Bhai, don't be so Nek. Let's have a little bit more fun, right? But of course, one wily man gets off the train, and who is this person? It is none other than, and I loved his name. I remember when I read it years ago, I loved it. Manik Mustaki. What is Manik Mustaki's specialization? Mustaki obviously loves mustaches. And what does he do? He gets off at Nekgaon with his magic box, and he utterly and absolutely changes everything about that village. A small egg shaped man got off the train. On his face was an outlandish mustache and a beard that looked like a giant tarantula. From this beard, with many branches, grew flowers and sparkling rhinestones. And it was so long that you wondered if the Eggman would trip and fall on it. Gosh, a laugh, a loud story and mystery. And I can only give you this much away in the story. And look at the bright, colors on the pages. I can only give away one thing, in the story is that he tells everybody in Negao, the men, the women, the children, that they must all have mustaches. So, folks, pick it up, grow a mustache, and read this book. This one, like I said, published by Karadi, priced at 199 rupees. Just checking the time and seeing how much more time we have to recommend. Maybe I'll do just 3 more recommendations. We did have Asha Nehemiah's books. I mean, it's impossible to, talk about picture book characters without Mrs. Woolley's funny sweaters, but many of you who already know her books, and the lovely Sringeri Srinivas as well, who's one of our favorite characters in the Indian children's publishing space. We just love Sringeri Srinivas Rao and so many adventures. But I'll pick 3 more of them that are a bit unusual. The next one that I'm going to recommend is one that I utterly and absolutely love. This is called For the Love of a Cat, and I think I've picked it for the love of its author, Rosalind Wilson, who was the editor of Target magazine. And I can't tell you how many writers have told us that they do what they do today primarily because of how Rosalind Wilson encouraged and shaped their writing. And boy, what a wonderful writer she is. She wrote very few books. She contributed a few stories to Target. And this one, I'm delighted Katha has, brought it out as a picture book illustrated by Wen Su, called For the Love of the Cat. Now, what is the story about? It's a picture book with many meanings. It's it may have a spiritual meaning. It may have like a more higher thinking kind of meaning to it, because it's the story of this painter, and he is the character that we really love. He lives in India, and his only friend is a cat called Tara. Now, he loves Tara as much as he loves painting. One time, though, and he's an artist, so he's quite a poor artist. He's starving. I mean, he is waiting for people to commission works for him, and it doesn't come by so easily. That story sort of said in such wonderful, glorious technicolor. Look at the way Wen Su has illustrated the story in such a bright color palette. You can look at it over and over again, and very stylized illustrations. Now, what happens to the starving artist once? He is commissioned to painting a picture of the Buddha, and that commission has him, he needs to choose between his art and his cat. What does the painter do? Does he choose between whom does he choose? Does he choose his art? Does he choose his cat? What a multi-layered picture book this is by Rosalind Wilson and illustrated by Wen Su, telling a fantastic story that can be interpreted in so many ways. I'm delighted really that Katha has this book out for children. This one's priced at 250 rupees. And I can see Ritvika Roy saying the bookworm from Karadi Tales has some very gorgeous illustrations. Indeed, the story of the stammering little boy. We've recommended him in a couple of bazaars, but it is definitely there in our picture book bazaar. You're also saying Asha Nehemiah's Behind the Lie should be read by everyone. I think it's pretty much just available digitally now on Storyweaver, or perhaps Pratham does intend to bring out some more copies. But we have picked from Asha's, collection. We had picked Mrs. Woolley to, talk about, because we just love kind-hearted, wonderful knitting Mrs. Woolley very, very much. Two quick recommendations before we get into our next segment. This one is a new one from Tulika called My Name is Gulab, and it's written and illustrated by Sagar Kolvankar. Now, we do love Gulab because she's such a spunky, funky girl. What does this book do? You know why? Gulab, we call her Gulab, and the words Gulab have the resonances of a rose smelling so sweet. But you know what Gulab's classmates call her? They call her Stinky Gulab. Why Stinky Gulab? Well, her parents are manual scavengers. Her father is a manual scavenger, and he cleans drains and gutters for a living, sometimes with bare hands. Now, what happens to a young child when you see that? Your classmates are making fun of you because of what your father's profession is. She gets really mad. She goes to her dad and she's like, "Why do you do this? Why do you do this for a living? Can't you do anything else?" And you can see teasing friends, ragging friends. And what happens to Gulab when she's getting teased? You can see she's really mad with her dad, for being a manual scavenger. But you know what? Young minds, they are the best. They, think of ways and means in which they can change the world. And all of us need to do that. We know that it is not a fair world. We know that our world is not an equal world. So, what does Gulab do? She decides to take the help of science, and you can see the way Sagar Kolvankar illustrates Gulab
Please, now.
Can you hear?
Yeah, can you switch to AKG again?
I have switched to AKG. Okay.
No.
No, so I don't know what to do now.
Yeah, now it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. All right, we are back. Sorry about that tech glitch after eons, but the audio decided to abandon us just, right now. Friends on Instagram, sorry about that glitch, but we're almost coming to the end of this segment and we're going to get into our conversation with our guest of the day, Richa Jha, very soon. We won't be able to broadcast that on Instagram. You're going to have to see that on Funky Rainbow's YouTube channel or on our Facebook page. I believe some of you on Instagram have written asking how we can order these books. Please do, write to us at look at our website, www.funkyrainbow.com. You can connect with us on WhatsApp at 99004 95665, and we can definitely help you pick up the books of your choice. My last recommendation, and the one before this, was My Name is Gulab, written and illustrated by Sagar Kolvankar. And we do love Gulab for her determination to right all the wrongs in her world. Can't end a picture book collection without actually focusing on children, on children who are protagonists. And we have these three lovely books from Pratham. We love this one, Girls Want Azadi, written by Kamla Bhasin and illustrated by Shrujana Niranjani Sridhar. There's Rainbow Boys and Rainbow Girls, again written by Kamla Bhasin and illustrated by Priya Kurian. And there is I Wish, which multiple authors and illustrators from Pratham's publishing program have written and illustrated this book. Why these three books? Because children really make a difference to anything and everything that we do in our world. And so in Kamla Bhasin's Girls Want Azadi, girls do want Azadi. They want, and you can look at those fantastic stylized illustrations. They want freedom from violence. They want freedom from harassment. They want the freedom to choose. They want the freedom to exercise their rights. And they want the freedom to be who they want to be. I just love the book. It's such a powerful, the girls in the book absolutely making such powerful demands, all of which we are obliged as adults to meet. We must make a world that's equal for boys and girls. Similarly, Kamla Bhasin with Rainbow Boys and Rainbow Girls, and you can see Priya Kurian's delightful illustrations about children who want to be themselves. It doesn't matter, tall, fat, thin, tall, with a hijab, not a hijab, with a turban, not a turban, but, there are girls and boys of every hue, every shape, every size, every color, and our world must absolutely, make space for people of all kinds, for diverse people, diverse children. And in I Wish, which has been, like I said, put together by different illustrators from Pratham's portfolio, children asking for different things. They dream of different things. What are the freedoms that are precious for them? 16 children from all over the country sharing what they wish they have the freedom to do. And the wishes, they range from what is simple to what is whimsical to something that's, quite complicated, but all of which holds the hope for a better future. And that's why we say that we want to conclude our picture book characters with the characters from these books. That is, children everywhere who have the right to be what they want to be, to dream of who they want to be, and to create a world where they can achieve their dreams, every single one of them, every single dream. So these characters, amongst some of our favorite characters from Indian children's books, there are hundreds of more in our recommendations. I mean, if you go to www.funkyrainbow.com, click on the tab that says Book Bazaar, there's a drop down menu, and there'll be season 1, season 2, season 3. Click on season 3, it'll take you to picture book characters we love. There are possibly how many books? Over 140 books, and I'm sure we'll be adding many, many more to them. Like I said, all human characters, because otherwise we're not able to make choices that can be accommodated in a bazaar. For our friends on Instagram, we're quickly going to make our new arrivals and 5 at 20 recommendations before we move on to the conversation with Richa Jha. So please do consider joining us on YouTube or Facebook. On to new arrivals. I don't know. Sham's putting up the video. Okay. So brand new on our bookshelves, and we haven't read these ones yet. The Good, the Bad, and the Spooky. Does that remind you of Clint Eastwood, folks? Well, this is a bad seed. And what does the bad seed and his sneaky plans, to succeed have to do? So the Good, the Bad, and the Spooky, a picture book for, young readers. You can have a look, by Jory John and Pete Oswald. There is, of course, The World Awaits by Thomas Roberts. And you do know that, his first book about COVID, which he sang as a song. He wrote as a song for his son when the world shut down because of COVID. And it became a huge hit on social media, that the father singing and narrating the story to his young boy. And, that book being so popular, so successful, has a sequel, this one called The World Awaits by, like I said, illustrated by Nomoko. It's a sequel to The Great Realization. And we have to read it, but I'm assuming it's all about the goodness in the world, good words, good deeds, and how many of us have found goodness during these, during the COVID pandemic. This one also for young readers, priced at 499 rupees. All these books available at special discounted prices on Funky Rainbow. This one, an excellent one. We are all standing on their shoulders. What a great way to tell children that when something is built, when success is achieved in something, it is because many people have gone ahead before you, creating the path for you to be successful. And this is a celebration of Afro-American women and how they've succeeded in different spaces in the world. So they say we are all standing on their shoulders. Who will stand on yours is the question that the author Monica Clark Robinson and illustrated by Laura Freeman asks. Two quick recommendations. Pinku Shergill, pastry chef. Who doesn't like a pastry chef? Written by Vibha Batra and illustrated by Shamika Chaves. Just one look at the pages, at the inside pages, makes me feel that we're absolutely going to be chuckling our way through the travails of this pastry chef and his papaji and mamaji, because Pinku wants to become a pastry chef while his dad wants him to become a shooting champ. Okay, how does that problem get resolved? We've got to read it and find out. Published by Scholastic, priced at 295 rupees. And this spectacular book that I think should be in every person's library, young or old, Shruti Rao's Spaceship to the Universe, The Story of Libraries, written by Shruti Rao and Anuradha Jagalur, taking you into libraries big and small, here, there, everywhere, telling you why a library is the best place in the world and how libraries have been set up in the smallest corners of the world where everything is so difficult. Or, taking you into libraries of big universities, really opening up the magic of libraries for all of us readers. This one published by Penguin Random House Duckbill, priced at 399 rupees. It's a book that's got to be on everyone's shelves. I know we are running short of time, so maybe we should just get on with the conversation with Richa. Is Richa here? And if we have time at the end of the show, we will do our 5 at 20 segment then. But it's with great pleasure that we welcome one of India's best known picture book passionistas to join us at our picture book bazaar today, Richa Jha.
Thank you, Vidya. So
Okay,
happy to be
my,
here.
my, my machine, as always, hang on a second, Richa. It always ensures that I can't hear a word of what the guest says. And Sham says there's just no way that can be fixed. I'm not so sure. Just say something, Richa.
Okay, I'm saying that
Okay, no,
such,
no, no. Wait,
such
wait, wait, wait,
great
wait.
delight
I
to
don't
be
have
here.
you on yet. Sorry.
No, so I'll keep rattling. I don't know whether you can hear me now.
I can hear you at last. So that's like a
Okay, fine.
big achievement. But thank you so much for joining us at the Picture Book Bazaar, Richa. We can't think of a better person to talk to about the absolute beauty of picture books and the big picture when it comes to picture books, basically, right? And I can see so many people cheering for you. There were people who came right at the beginning saying that she's put together the most wonderful picture
Oh
books
gosh.
that our children have access to, our adults have access to. But for all of you, who are watching, Richa Jha, a picture book writer, a picture book, editor, also a picture book publisher with Pickle Yolk Books. We have, 13 books at from the Pickle Yolk stable, each one of them a gem. And just before we start, one of our favorite picture book characters that we wanted to include in this bazaar, and we were waiting for Richa to come online, is from her latest book, I and I.
May I hold it? May I hold it? And that's Mamta, Neni, and Sanket Petkar through and through, all out. It's
Absolutely written by Mamta Naini and illustrated by Sanket Petkar. Sham, are you going to put up the video? Sorry, can you just check with Sham? I don't think he's able to hear. Yeah. Okay, one quick video before we start.
I'll also hold it up while the video is coming on, because this is like the golden gem in the Ikidoki community, and I'm so very proud of having published this and having had the chance to work with Mamta and Sanket on this book. Really, it's been one of the most pleasurable, most delightful, most I don't know, enriching sort of experience. I mean, every book is an enriching experience, yes. But the moment you get on to collaborate with creators who are just incredibly so brilliant, it sort of just magnifies and amplifies the overall experience. So, I mean, all.
Delighted that we are doing the first event around I and Mamta Naini at the Ooty Lit Fest at the moment, so not able to join us, but her publisher definitely going to talk to us about I and all the other wonderful picture yoke books. I can see Asha Nehemiah cheering for you. I can see Ritvika Roy saying, hello, this is so exciting. Srividya Venkat clapping for you. And Ritvika saying, I just love, I and I. Beyond Books Chennai, connecting with us on Instagram saying, hi to Richa. We absolutely love the Pickle Yoke books.
My heart.
Okay.
No, audio lost.
One second. We've lost audio again.
Not your fault. Nixon's audio is on.
Richa, your audio is gone off. Richa, your audio is lost. Your audio is gone off. We can't hear you. Can you say something? No, one sec, Sham. No audio, Richa. You want to try connecting?
I think I'm back.
Yeah,
Suddenly,
you're back.
everything
You're
went
back.
blank, and now I'm back. Yeah, okay.
Audio is back. Jyoti Narayan saying "Ye Richa Jha" and "Ye to I." You can see how
Thank
many
you so
fans you have
much.
out there, Richa.
Okay, I may I blush a bit? Like I really want to blush on screen. Is it?
So I have, of course, a clutch of,
Thank you very much.
to talk about, how this journey began, Richa. How did your journey of becoming a picture book enthusiast, a picture book passionista really begin?
Okay, so very quickly, I've said it so many times, but I'll very, very quickly say it here, Vidya. I think it all began with my becoming a parent. Uh, so I was in love with books even, I mean, otherwise, I mean, illustrated books even otherwise. But there was that whole, I think, 20-year period when I did not look at any illustrated books as such. I mean, so growing up, yes, maybe because all the gorgeous Russian books used to come, so I was there. Being the first one at the Calcutta Book Fair to sort of grab whatever I could. But so for that longest of periods, I sort of was out of touch with all these illustrated books. And then suddenly my son was born 20 years ago. And, I mean, my first instinct was to try and get books for him. And at that time, I mean, I wasn't aware of the fabulous Tulika books, which were already there in India, and the fabulous Tara books that were already there in India. So for me, I mean, I didn't know. I didn't know they existed. So for me, the very obvious option was going to Strand, because we were in Bombay at that time, and Strand used to hold their annual huge, lovely book fair. They used to have that fair there. Uh, and so I remember going and picking up like tens of picture books and most of them were international ones at that time, because the Indian ones were not as freely available as they are now, thanks to all these fabulous independent bookshops that you all are. I mean, the fabulous thing that you're doing. Okay, so Vidya, it was. I mean, for me, it was that one moment. I don't know whether my son fell in love with it at that time or not, with the picture books, but for me, it was maybe falling back in love with that medium, which I had sort of forgotten about. And this time it was slightly new because there were because this time I could see that beautiful interplay of the text and visuals, which wasn't the case in the earlier illustrated books. Because those were literal sort of visual sort of paraphrasing. Even though they were gorgeous. So for me, I mean, that's where that whole intrigue sort of set in around it. And I was a freelance writer, so for me, words were always important. Books were always important. So somehow there is this new format, and I'm sort of just blown over by the entire thing of how beautifully they were able to tell me a complete story in just 32 pages.
Right.
And it was a marvel. I mean, for me, I can't think of a better medium uh, than picture books to tell a complete story, a very wholesome sort of thing. And I'm sure we'll come to it with their later, but it's sort of age agnostic, really. I would say the most frivolous, the lightest of books, uh, from I don't know, I can't think of the names right now offhand now because I'm so excited just talking about it. But even something like say Mo Williams, the Pigeons books. I mean, all these are, even they have so much to tell. Even an
Correct.
adult who's like 60 or 70 or 80. So for me, it's like, I mean, I just fell in love with them. And for me, it was also so a bit of a, the more I read out to him and then increased, I mean, later my daughter, who's like 4 years apart, I was totally hooked onto it. I mean, I remember going to libraries and picking up like all these books at a time, and taking memberships to two different libraries so that I could bring home 20 books, at one time. And they were all picture books. So and at some point I felt that maybe, okay, it's time for me to start writing them. And that's how the journey began. But I
Ah.
mean, the passion was very much because I was reading out to my children every single day, without a fail. And it was not like a chore as such. It was because I myself was so excited about it. I mean, whether my children liked it or not, I sort of just dragged them and I said, now listen to me. Okay.
Always a good
So,
reason. The kids are always a great reason to do something.
yes.
I can see Sumi Chandrasekhan saying, "Yay, Richa." And Sangeeta, how lovely to see you from Kahani Tree, saying, "Thank you, Funky Rainbow,
Oh,
for bringing us Richa.
oh,
Adore her and her
may I
fabulous
may I may I
Pitilio
acknowledge? May
books."
I give her a big hug? I mean, I want to give a hug to everyone who's out there, but Sangeeta very especially so because, Vidya, I must tell you this. I mean, this be a little aside. Sangeeta was the first person who saw the first two books that I created, Susu Pals and Boy Boy. One of the first people, and she was the first person, to sort of. I mean, you should have seen the excitement with which she received the PDF of the two books when I shared with them. And in that one moment, it sort of connected me to someone who is just as mad as I am about picture books. I don't know, people, whether you know it or not, but she is one crazy mad woman as far as picture books go. So I owe a lot to Sangeeta in terms of the unrelenting sort of unfailing encouragement that I have got from Sangeeta. And that does not mean that she does not sort of tell me that a book is bad. A bad book is a bad book when it's coming from me, but she's that honest person who is always there to tell me.
A big shout out to you, Sangeeta Mehta Bansali. We love the
She's
work you
doing
do
a
at Kahani
fabulous,
Tree.
fabulous thing.
And we've got to say that, when we asked Richa if we could do the first event around I, and you had asked her to, apparently you did say, let Funky Rainbow go ahead and do it because, they do a great Saturday
Sangeeta's
bazaar.
yes,
I can't tell
yes.
you how much that means to us in this space. I mean, independent children's bookstores, no competition, just
Yeah.
friendship, just abiding friendship. So I do want to say to you, Sangeeta, that is such a wonderful gesture, and we hope to do something with you very, very soon. Keeping fingers crossed. So, Richard, tell us about Pickle Yolk books and how you create these visually stunning books that are rich in emotion, in experience. Tell us a bit about that collaborative process, Richa. Maybe taking one or two Pickle Yolk books as examples.
So, Vidya, you see, I mean, I am a visual person in general. So for me, I think in a picture book, it's always the words that come before it's the illustrations that come before the words. I mean, I could very well have all my Pickle York titles without the words being there, as long as those fabulous illustrators I've collaborated with have done given their magic, rendered their magic to the pages. So for me, when I'm collaborating the bulk of the books is still written by me, though I'm trying to change that, and I'm having more fabulous writers into the fold now. But you see, but even so, even if it's by another author, I am there as an editor and sort of art editor and all that. So I'm always interacting with the the illustrators, artists, uh, and with the authors, of course. There are two, three things that come to my mind. One is, I think, absolute trust in the creator. So whether I'm interacting with an author or with the artist or with the designer in some cases, I think it's that absolute surrender that I have for their creative thinking thought process. So it comes from there. That does not mean that I don't have my own opinions or my own ideas, but when I am collaborating, I look for someone who is equally trusting in me with their ideas. And I think it's that mutual trust that shows on paper,
Right.
on the pages, on the final books. So I think it has to, because there is that one stage where it stops being my book or her book or his book, that sort of a thing. It just becomes our book when we are constantly sort of and it's a very mad sort of space when we get into it. It's like we are constantly talking about it and trying to get it better and better and better. I mean, just with I, Vidya, we've been at it for 4 years. And Mamta,
Wow.
I'm really missing Mamta here and Sanket here
Yes,
online.
seriously.
I wish they were here to sit, be here and join in this huge euphoric moment for me right now. We've been at it for 4 years. And even till the last day the book was going into print, you will not believe, Mamta and I were sitting and discussing that one little sentence that could be changed, the one little comma. Oh, and commas remind me of Archana Atri, my fabulous friend, because
Correct.
I mean, she's my I think grammar keeper and my proofread. I really am bad at it. Okay, and she also like gives me a lot of other inputs and all that. So yeah, so thanks to her. I mean, the moment I think of commas, I think of Archana now, especially for this book. Okay, till the last minute we were at it. And similarly with Sanket, and hats off to all the fabulous artists I've worked with, Vidya. They have never said, no, but that's not my job. My job is over. I mean, I've given you the thing and I'm off it. It's like, it's there, till the last minute we are tweaking the little color somewhere and the little flowers. It's been amazing. And that's how it happens. Okay, so that's I that I was talking about. But I think I would also like to very quickly mention, I don't know how much time we have. Dance of the Wild, amazing artwork by Ruchi Masane. I mean, this is a fabulous book.
It's a lovely book, yes.
So there's this one page I would want to show. Like when we talk about collaboration, there's this one page where she was saying, when I twirl and swirl, the magic unfurls. So it's all about her feeling wild and free when she's without clothes, and she feels like running around and dancing and going all out. And I remember discussing, and I had forgotten about it. Ruchi was the one who reminded me of it. Yes, that spread. It's a gorgeous spread. Okay. Yes. And so I mean, all I remember telling Ruchi is that, okay, let's have a very graceful sort of something where maybe lots of women in the background in a fading sort of manner, where they are doing something with their bodies, and that's about it. Okay, and I think trapeze artist is something that came to my mind, and that's all I would have told her. I mean, discussed with her. I mean, look at what she has come up with. It's. I mean, the readers won't be able to see it right now, but just putting that kind of thought. So it's like taking that thought and then making it into a completely different sort of magical interpretation, and putting in that world, bringing in that whole new. Layers and layers into it, and that's what the illustrators do. That's what the authors have done with me.
Absolutely.
So as an editor, if I'm suggesting something, suddenly they'll be like, oh, how about this? So it'll come either when I was working with, say, Srividya for Tree Boy, or Tanu for it's Darkless, or with Mamta, of course. So that is the collaborative thing that's just so beautiful. Okay. Maybe I'll just leave it, but here, very quickly.
Yes, sure.
Yes. And very few people know about this book, and which is why I'm so like, it's called We Love Garlic, and it's been illustrated like really gorgeously by Kunal Kundu. And again, here is this girl who falls in love with garlic, and it's a vampire girl, and vampires are supposed to not venture anywhere close to garlic. And there is this one frame that you will see. I don't know whether you can see. Yes. There's this beautiful full-page moon, which again is like magical. Okay, I didn't have to say this to Kunal at all. All I had discussed with Kunal was that she is sort of grounded. Her parents have grounded her in the typical way all children are grounded for having done something naughty, something bad, something that they shouldn't have done. Okay, not having listened to their parents. And here was Kunal, who just lifted up that whole experience of being grounded and brought in so much depth into it. So I mean, for me, it's like this is what keeps me going, Vidya. I can't think of a day that I'm not in sort of discussion with somebody or the other around some pickle yolk title.
It shows, Richa. And you brought out such a key point. Trust is what transforms books from being books to something that's really special, right? That trust and that collaboration.
Trust and respect, respect for the other person's view. So it's like
it is.
I'm really sorry. I've taken too much time.
No. Asha saying, love all you indie bookstores. What a sweet gesture, Sangeeta Mehta Bansali. She's Divya Menon saying, so happy to see Richa Jha here. I love her books, especially Macher Jol. Jyoti Narayan sending a hat tip to Sangeeta Mehta Bansali. Venkat Lakshmi Vikram saying hello to you and saying that this is a lovely book. She loves both Dance of the Wild and We Loved Garlic. So tell us, very quickly about the new one, Richa. You've explored fairly, with most pickle yolk books, there is one theme that you may get when you're reading the books once. I mean, there are some more layers of meaning that, that sort of reveal themselves as you read over and over again. And so, maybe identity or body image or just family bonding. How, you don't really shy away from introducing these issues to our littlest readers. How do you choose these themes, or do they choose you?
Vidya, it's neither. I feel I just get attracted to a good story. And again, when I'm saying getting attracted, so even if I'm writing it, sort of, I distance myself from it as a creator, and sort of I look at it from very, very objective pair of eyes. So I just like a good story which is wholesome and which touches me as a reader somewhere. Okay, so there's got to be that little element which, at its core, so even if it's a very, very light sort of book, there has to be that one moment which touches me somewhere.
Right.
So, the rest of it is an incidental sort of backdrop. I wouldn't say incidental because that is what brings in the different layers to the story, of course, and that is what makes it complete. But I feel at the core of the book is never the theme. The theme sort of just gets unearthed in the process. Like even with I and I, a few people who may take it as a book around, say, terminal illness, but
Illness.
that's not something which is there in any three of our minds, like Sanket's or my Mamta's when she was writing it, or when I was reading or editing it and all that. It's not like, it's at the core, it's the story of that huge deep bond and bonding between the mother and the daughter, right? And everything else, the search for identity, I think that's a huge thing. I mean, in this book especially, it's the bonding that's leading to that search for identity in that little girl, and vice versa. So of course that is the key sort of thing. But I think everything else that you just mentioned, the body image and so on and so forth, I think they are those the lateral things that happen to sort of just emerge from it, rather than being the core of the book. So it's never a theme. I mean, I know some people feel that I'm always doing issue driven books, but that's not the case at all. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not the case.
It's true. I
Somehow
mean,
it just happens at
I
the
think you let the reader find, meanings out of the
different
pages of
meaning.
your books, basically, isn't it,
Yes,
Richa? Yeah.
I think so. And it's every reader will have a different interpretation to the book. I mean, I was stunned by what, say, Archana actually told me the other day about the book. I think she's also, she posted it yesterday. I've not been able to sort of do justice to the post properly yet. But, the different interpretations that come in, and they also amaze me because as a creator, one of the creators, I may not have thought of it at all.
Right.
Like Archana Atri's entire focus is on Aji, okay, on her quietude and all that. And believe me, I mean, we love that character, but I, as a creator, may not have thought of it. Or
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's the beauty of readers sort of starting to interpret a book.
I can
And
imagine.
I think there can be as many interpretations, as many layers to a book as there are readers in this world, really.
Yeah.
So
You say it on your page, serendipity in every page. I think that's what
yes.
it really is, actually, right?
I would want all the books to be like that. I mean, you discover, and with each reading you discover something new each time. I feel that's also important.
Yes.
Whether it's the way the words have been written or the illustrations have been put and all that. So I mean, that's how it is. I think we can move away from pickle yolk titles now. I mean, please,
Folks, the
I have to
discount
show
at
this
Funky
because
Rainbow,
this is
please let it fly
uh,
off the shelves.
yes, Mamta and Sanket, a huge thank you to you both for this book. I mean, for making this a pickle yolk title. I mean, ever so indebted to both of you for this. Thank you. And so
Wonderful.
proud of you.
So we're hoping many copies of I and I make their ways into make their way to many bookshelves, from Funky Rainbow's bookshelves, from Kahani Tree's bookshelves, wherever. But let the book be read, folks. You know what, Richa? Often we have parents who come to us, and even teachers and librarians, asking for the difference between picture books and illustrated storybooks. So maybe you can tell us a bit about that.
Okay. So, all right. So very strict. I mean, at the core, it's how the words and the illustrations are at play with each other. So typically in an illustrated book, you could understand the entire story even if the illustrations were not there.
Right.
And an example that comes to my mind, gorgeous ones, of course, is the Amma Tell Me,
Amma Tell Me series.
Amma
Yeah.
Tell Me
Yeah.
series by Bhakti Mathur and Walshri Somani. I mean, gorgeously done books and so very needed. You know, that whole thing of demystifying mythology for children and bringing it out in a very contemporarized sort of way and all that. They're really nice, breezy, fun to do and all that. But you know, even if you were to remove the illustrations, which are very, very arresting, I mean, they really, truly are arresting, gorgeous illustrations, but you would still, so if a child is sort of sitting with the eyes shut, they can still know the entire story simply because you are reading out the words to them. Yeah, Bhakti Mathur and
All
what?
of them up
Yes,
here.
yeah. Okay. So that's so now the so that doesn't happen in a picture book. So if it's a picture book which is done in the manner of a typical true picture book, you cannot keep the visuals aside. I mean, you've got to have the two in your mind playing together. So your ears are working and your eyes are working, and then together they go to your mind and your brain and your heart, and all the gooey things are happening. You know, inside you, fuzzy things are happening. When it's only when you allowing both sort of all the stimuli to come inside you. So a very good example for that, an absolute favorite of mine, Story Weaver, Timira Gupta, Pishi and me. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't tired of saying again and again how much I love that book.
Yeah.
It's that quintessentially, beautifully, brilliantly done picture book. Okay, and I thought I would mention it, and so you know I've
Look at
jotted
the
down.
cover, no.
So it's like, you know, Timira starts by saying, "I love going for walks." And Rajiv Ipe, I mean the fabulous Rajiv Ipe, his illustrations. So all Timira is saying, I love going for walks, especially with my PC. Okay, PC
Yeah.
is his aunt. And the illustrations are not showing the two of them walking or anything, or they are showing them tying their laces, the shoelaces. Now, look at the kind of emotions that are going in onto that page.
Ah,
Okay, now that is what a brilliant picture book does. You know, so it's the author who's brought in the words. Again, very minimal yet loaded. I mean, there's so much that you can interpret. You know, you can see the excitement, you can see the joy in the child and everything, the anticipation, and the fact that he's going with his favorite person, PC. Okay, so that's there. And then look at the way Rajiv has brought in the interpretation onto
right.
that page. It's brilliant, right? And that's how every single page of that book unfolds. People, if you have not read that book, please read it. Please pick it up, buy it, read that book. I mean, it's my absolute all-time Indian favorite books, Indian picture books, really.
Lovely.
Okay, I mean, a big applause to both Rajiv and Timira for that, and of course the story weaver Pratham team
I
for
know.
bringing it
I
up.
know. If it's not in
So
print, perhaps, so people can read it on the Story Weaver platform, certainly. Hopefully,
okay.
it'll be back in print
Yeah. So
soon.
it's like you've got to be saying something. So the illustrations have to say something more than what the words have just told you. If
Absolutely.
it's not, then it ends up being just an illustrated storybook. But the visuals have to bring it. And remember, the children are looking at the illustrations first,
Right.
any day, and they are going to be picking out things which we as adults will never be able to spot in the illustrations. So you know, if the parents are in a hurry to sort of just flip over and go to the next page and go to the next and all that, please slow down,
Slow down.
because your child is seeing so much more of the story than you and I can ever extract from them.
So well said. Yes, I mean, I can see, Ritvika saying Machar Jhol is one of my, it's a special book, and not just because it's set in my city. Arun has a question for you, but we'll come to that as soon as we finish off ours. Sham saying Rajiv is one of my favoriteest illustrators. Asha Nehemiah
Yes.
saying Cham Madhavan Sharada, ditto, got to be, like you said, really bringing alive the magic of those words. You are, of course, Richa, a great believer in picture books being read by children of all ages and adults, and in fact that whole age appropriateness thing that adults have, right? You the adults often dwell upon it, but you have said in so many conversations that you have read picture books with your grown up kids as well. So why do you believe reading aloud or reading together is one of the best ways to enjoy picture books?
Because the bonding that happens between a parent and child. I mean, again, at the risk of repeating myself ad nauseum, I'm saying, and this is true for fathers as well,
Good, you
and
said fathers.
especially for fathers, because you will never get to sort of have that bond, special moment with your child when you're sort of most mothers do while have when they're breastfeeding. For fathers, I feel this is the best way of bonding with your little child. And of course, for mothers, it always is, right? When you're reading a book aloud to a child, whether it's your 1 month old baby or a 16-year-old, as my daughter is, Vidya, you'll not believe. I have seen children, they are just looking at your face, which includes my daughter now. I mean, she's a crazy reader. I mean, she can devour any kind of book on this earth. Okay. And yet the delight that she feels the moment we sit together with a picture book has no parallels at all in this world. Okay.
Lovely.
It's like, she still is looking at me with those same sort of bright-eyed wonder, when I'm reading out. And it's not because I'm a mother or any, I mean, it's like, or maybe I'm because I'm the mother, as a mother, or as somebody who is as passionately into that reading moment as she is. And she's looking, and all children I've seen, not just my children, they are listening to you, and they're looking at your lips. So for very, very young children, they are looking very keenly at your lips, and the way your lips are moving, the way your eyes start twinkling when you come up with something. Or when you're reading a very, very a poignant sort of book, and you start choking, the child can feel that. Okay, I've faced situations where I have sort of nearly broken down reading a book, picture book, and then there's that little pause, that really pregnant sort of pause, where none of us is talking, and then suddenly my child will take on from there, because the child knows that I am sort of overcome with emotions at that point, and sort of she takes over. And it's not just true of me, it's true of so many children I've seen, whether it's in a classroom sort of situation, when a librarian is doing that with a bunch of children out there.
Absolutely.
And I feel that there is no alternative to that. I mean, children, the sooner they start dipping their little fingers, turning the pages of a picture book, and please, let them always be physical picture books. Please, you've got to have physical picture books in the hands of children, little children. Okay,
we couldn't agree more.
Yes, which you've got to turn the page, because even the act of doing it together, it's some sort of magic, really. So, and that bonding stays, because I wouldn't have known of it otherwise. I used to hear so many of these Western sort of authors talk about their favorite picture books when they were growing up,
right?
And they have sort of remembered it all their lives. And I wouldn't have experienced that had I not had this experience with my children.
Right.
So it's something that sort of builds a reader right then. I mean, you can't expect a child to suddenly take to books at the age of, say, 6 or 5 or 8. If you've not exposed them to this joy of reading,
absolutely,
this is where the joy of reading comes from. Because it's that uninhibited space where it's only you and that one grown up who is intimately doing, that reading together. And it's like, it's a different sphere altogether.
How beautifully you express that. Sometimes, there are no words to express, I think, that magic of, bonding with kids over books. Arun actually wanted to ask that, the question that he sent out, can you just put it up on the screen again, Sham, was about whether, there's a point in a picture book where everyone agrees, or, then the onus is left to the reader finally, if there's a point at which you decide that that's it, the book is going to get published.
Sorry. I missed that. I was
So
thinking
what he
about
wants
the
to know is
materials.
that, do you decide that the book is ready for publishing at a point when the writer, the illustrator, and the publisher agree that everything is okay? Or you're like, okay, now it's done. It's the reader's onus to get meaning out of the picture book.
It's a difficult one for me,
It's a
Vidya. I
tough
don't really.
question,
It's
yeah.
a tough question. So I'll tell you two ways of going about it. I think typically what happens with most publishing houses is that the story comes from the author, and the editor and the author work together on it in case there is some work needed, tweaks needed, or some sort of revisions required, or whatever. And then there'll be that one stage when the editor will tell the author that, okay, we are through with this process. So good, you've given us the final draft now, the way we wanted it. And from now on, it's our onus, the onus is on us now to bring out a beautiful, gorgeous picture book. Right? After which, more or less, I wouldn't say all the time, but that interaction between the author and the editor and the illustrator may become a little like scanty, at some point. Which the focus therefore shifts to the illustrator then. So then that's the editor, art director, and the illustrator with whom that whole conversation begins, amongst them. So therefore, it happens in parts. So there's one chunk that has the story part gets completed, and then the illustration part starts. But in my case, because everything is happening all together, I feel it has its advantages and disadvantages, of course. So I would like to dwell only on the advantages. Okay, people. Yeah. I think the beauty of that is because I'm there at the score, still very much at the center of the. That it's never complete. Trust me. There is never that point where any three of us are feeling that, okay, the book is done. Right? Which is why the Pickle Yolk titles take forever to come out, every single title, because we are constantly at it. And our, I think, rule of thumb for me, I mean, internal sort of rule of thumb, unsaid rule of thumb is that if I've gone away from a book for about, say, 2 months, maybe, and then if I come back to that whole, either just the story or the way the book has come together, and if I feel that, okay, not a comma or a pause needs to be tweaked.
Correct.
Okay. For me, in my mind, okay, that is the stage where I feel that, yes, the book is done. So after, say, 1 month or 2 months, on that reading, that would be the 100th reading or whatever reading of that story or the book, if I feel there is no scope for any more changes anywhere, that's the stage where I mean, as a creator, as a publisher, I feel, okay, it's done.
Okay.
And I feel every publishing house would be having their own sort of criterion for it, which will differ from one another. Though having said that, that does not mean that all the books that come out of the Pickle Yolk thing are perfect, because the moment they come out, the moment they have come back from the press, is again where the mind starts sort of turning. I mean, this could have been better, etc., etc. Yeah. But for that one little moment, I feel I'm ready to let go. That saying, okay, fine, it's done.
Can go out into the world.
Go out into the world, and then it's the readers. Then it's the reader's interpretation. I mean, I can't tell you whether it's whether I am more nervous about it or Mamta. I mean, Mamta is such a lovely, quiet person, and so is Sanket. So they are not going to ever sort of tell me what's going on inside them. I mean, they do, of course. We do share a lot of things, but so I'm the jumpy one. I'm always the jumpy one, and my jumpiness is both, I think, infectious, but it's also troubling at times, because it can create a lot of doubts in people's mind, especially the author's mind or the illustrators. Mind. Yeah. So at some point, I have to tell myself, okay, it's done. Enough is enough. But hats off to Mamta, really. I mean, as I said, even once the thing went into print, and I said, Mamta, one last thing, and she said, yeah, it's okay. and the way she reads my mind, especially with this book. I mean, if I had a thought, she was there to sort of just interpret it in her words. If she had a thought, I was able to say that, yes, I can see what you're saying, what you're trying to say. So it was I mean, that's a beauty. Enough. We can come back to
No,
pickle.
no.
It's not about pickle yolk.
I
Sorry.
can see Srividya saying, I totally agree. Picture books are a wonderful way to bond with kids. Jyoti Narayan saying, oh, the pause after which the child takes over. So, so true. Richa, your enthusiasm is pouring out of the screen. I'm heading out to pick up I and I right now. Look at that. And Ritvika saying, my sister who
Bite
just
from Funky Rainbow. Bite from Funky
yes,
Rainbow. Yeah.
say it again, say it loudly, say it 100 times,
Pick it
like,
up,
right?
pick it up, please. And if Sangeeta is there, pick it up from Kahani Tree also. I mean that. And if everybody
Mutama
is there,
says she's been trying to take a picture of yours and you're like so animated that she's not able to get one. But Ritvika saying, my sister who just turned 8 feels very puzzled when I, a grown up, sit down with picture books with her. Then she reads them mesmerized. The best kind of bond ever. So, of course,
it's
you.
enchanting, really.
It,
It's really enchanting. Yeah.
Tell us. I mean, I know this is like the worst kind of question for a picture book enthusiast, but 2, 3 of your favorite, picture book reads. I know there are hundreds, like, right? And how, that warm, fuzzy feeling of reading a picture book, how can parents or librarians, adults basically create that with kids?
So okay, just I think again that entire you can create that if the moment you start believing in that whole format of a picture book as adults. I mean, you put aside you just cast aside your own value judgment on, oh, this is just a book for
Richa, we've lost your audio. Richa, we've lost your audio. N- Uh, no, I don't think she can. Richa, we've lost your audio. No, she's not able to hear. No, she's not looking either. So, yeah. Richa, we can't hear you, Richa. No, you have to call her, Sham, or you type on the. Richa,
sorry.
we lost you.
Oh,
Sorry, we
sorry.
lost the audio. Just went off what you were saying. If you can
Okay.
just quickly encapsulate. Sorry.
Yeah. So I'm saying, as adults, we just need to cast aside our own value judgments as far as the picture books, the medium of a picture book go, because the first instinct is, oh, this is a book for very young children, and therefore, the way we take to a picture book also comes with that amount of subjectivity. All right, that it's
Right.
a book for children, and therefore, I mean, I will only engage with it to the extent that I have to read out to my child. It's more like a duty, it's more like a chore that I'm doing at the end of a day or in the morning or whenever. The moment we stop that filter from coming into our own reading experience of a picture book, I think it's going to be absolute maddening joy. Okay, because you see, all therefore we are trying to do is look at a picture book the way a child would take to it. Okay, so look at the wonderment in the eyes of a child when the child is doing it. And that's how we have to take to it. So we have to absorb the energy that's coming off the page.
Right.
And that energy is coming through the words, it's coming through the illustration. So we have to take our time to let the illustration sink in. And if we are doing it with our children, of course, let's not be in a hurry to get to the end. No matter how tired we are, children feel very disappointed when we are
I
in a hurry
know.
to rush through the
I
book.
know.
So it's like, and also, I mean, at least I feel as adults, we should avoid asking that whole thing at the end. So what did you get from this book?
Yeah.
The moment we do that with one book, the next time the child will not want to sit with us with either the same book or another one, because again, it's not something the child is absorbing whatever she has to. Okay, and what I take from that book does not have to be the same as what the child is taking
Absolutely.
from that same book.
Absolutely.
So I feel this is one conversation we should never have with a child. We can have 100 other conversations around the book. What can you see? I mean, do you see this? Did I miss seeing something on the page? What is the best thing that you like about this book? Those kind of things we can ask. And that's where we are making their entire process more exciting. But the one thing we should always stay away from is, what did you learn from this book? And that's a sure shot put off.
Correct. You want to just quickly tell us about your favorites before we wrap?
I think the first one that comes comes to my mind is, I think, a favorite with a lot of us. It's sort of cliched, but I'll still tell you because that book moves me no end each time I read it. And I may have read it like 1,000 times, and yet I cry. And that's Oliver Jeffers' The Heart in the Bottle.
Ah.
It's something that really makes me feel completely, and there's that one point where I choke each time. It's that image where the girl is seeing that empty armchair, and there's that ray of
Absolutely.
that light floating in. I mean, I don't know, I can't tell you how many times I've cried, it's a wordless page. Okay, no, I think there are some tiny one or two pages there until something. It's like I pause and I allow all of that to just come in, and I feel, all kinds of thoughts keep coming into my mind. I mean, what if I were to be the person in the chair? What if I was that girl there?
Yeah.
What if I know a person? It's, I mean, that thought doesn't, that illustration does not leave me, and the thought behind it does not leave me. Okay, so that's a masterpiece, really,
Mm-hmm.
that entire book. And of course, the thought behind the story itself is so, I think, enriching, empowering, I feel. Okay, how to cope with that whole thing of having, also learning to let go, and yet sort of get somebody who's no longer there in your life to still be a part of
To
you.
be a
It's
part
a
of
it's a
it, yeah.
it's a beautiful book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's there. The other magical book, it's a book that I wish I had the ability to write or create, as a publisher, and that's Payal is Lost.
Yeah.
Payal Kho Gayi. It came out, I
Ekalavya's.
think, Payal Kho Gayi. And it's actually a Muskan sort of book, and then they did it in collaboration with Eklavya by Maheen Mirza and Kanak Shashi. Okay,
Yes, Kanak Shashi. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kanak Shashi, right? It's a book, again, simple words. It's just about a girl who everybody thinks is lost, and the entire set of people around her are looking for her. And who are these people? It's we do not talk about people like Payal in our books.
Right.
Okay, we have begun talking about people. I'm glad, I'm really glad, and hats off to all these fabulous authors and editors and publishers who have now started taking, making our books more inclusive,
More
in that sense.
diverse. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
more diverse, more inclusive, and just bringing in all kinds of representations in, but we still have a long way to go. But
Absolutely.
Payal is Lost, I mean, there is so much that the book says without making it heavy. Every single page, and the sheer joy at the end, where do we find Payal tucked away in that little thing with a book in her hand? It's I mean, to me, again, very few books give me that kind of goosebumps when I come to the last page each time.
Right.
Okay, so I'm so glad a book like that we have with us in our midst.
Yes.
And one last book, if we have the time for it, please. Okay, it's Tara's The London Jungle
Jungle
Book.
Book. Yes.
Baju Shyam. Again, it's a different. I don't take that easily to folk. I mean, books which have folk
Mm-hmm.
art,
Mm-hmm.
because I
Mm-hmm.
mean that's not my concept of a picture book.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, for me, folk art is a different category of books altogether. So I mean, naturally I don't usually sort of, I'm able to connect, not that readily. But this book is mind blowing.
It
This
is.
is the book. If we don't know what's going on in the minds of a little child when they are seeing something for the first time, right? This is one book that can tell us, that can just show us what could be happening in the child's mind, in a child's pair of eyes, when they are seeing things for the first time. That perspective that they bring in, that anything new that you're confronted with brings into your life. I mean, I think as adults, we become sort of very blasé about things. We see everything from a very, everything becomes mundane for us. Like, so we may be seeing
Absolutely.
the same clock tower, we may be seeing the same
Yeah.
red light, or we may be seeing the same bus. Thoughts won't come to us. But the way Bhaju Shyam, and because it's two different worlds that come, he's trying to juxtapose in that, and his
Absolutely.
first experience of what a huge megapolis like London felt to him
I know.
is again, it's like, it's a book I feel every picture book lover should read, because it's a completely different way of bringing across that joy. And using folk art, which is where the
Absolutely.
beauty of that whole thing lies.
And capturing that memory, like he says,
And
for us the rooster keeps time where I
yes,
live, and for
absolutely.
you it's the clock, and
It's the
that's why it's
clock. It's the
interpreted.
clock. It's two
Right.
worlds. Our worlds are similar and yet apart, so different. And yet again, it's like yet we are together. Yet we are all same. It's just, that message comes across so strongly in this book without again making it messagey. I love it.
Absolutely wonderful, wonderful recommendations there. And the reasons behind those recommendations, really bringing alive the magic of picture books, Richa. I can see Arun's actually saying what I wanted to say. He said, glad to be here. A guest with so much enthusiasm is really infectious. This is really infectious. So, folks, I know we've taken a lot more of your
Sorry,
time than we were
sorry.
supposed to, but Richa's a chatterbox, so am I,
I'm
and
sorry. You are
it is.
indefatigable, right? I always get confused. Uh, yeah.
So we have all of Richa's pickle yolk books. We have all of her recommendations in stock at Funky Rainbow. Just a huge plethora of wonderful books to choose from. Thank you so much for joining us at the Picture Book Bazaar. We really
Thank you
couldn't
so
have.
much. Vidya, before I just go off, a very very quick. I would like to mention Sumanto and Gautam.
Yes,
Pickle Yolk
yes,
owes
please
a
do.
huge big thing to both of them. Really,
Yes.
Gautam Benekal has done so many books with me. There would not have been a Pickle Yolk books without Gautam Benekal. Really, I can't do talk about Pickle Yolk books and not mention Gautam Benekal there. Wherever you are, Gautam, I miss you. And Sumanto,
Shumanta Day, yeah.
Sumanto Day, what you did for Pickle Yolk, I'm indebted for life for bringing in what you did, and I really miss both of them. It's Pickle Yolk
I
has
think
lost
I
its
think wherever they are, Richa, they will be reading picture books. They will be thinking about you.
I think
They
so.
will definitely be doing that. So lovely that you remember two wonderful, wonderful contributors to this journey of yours, Richa. It is, the Gautam Benegal's work is there in so many of the Pickle Yolk books, and
That's right.
Sumanta Day, of course, synonymous with Machar Jol. I can see Divya Menon saying, didn't realize how time went. What a delightful session. Thank you, Richa and Team FR. Ritvika saying, this was a beautiful episode. Thank you, for Richa, for joining us at the Book Bazaar. We were delighted
Thank
to
you.
host you here.
Thank you. I have little tears in my eyes. Okay, I don't know why, but but I
The
will.
warm, fuzzy feeling of picture books. That's
Yes,
what it is,
absolutely. Thank you.
basically, right?
Vidya, thank you. Team Funky Rainbow, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
for being
much.
inspiration.
And
Thank you.
we'll, have you in another episode another time soon, definitely. Yeah.
And thank you for all that special shout out for I&I. This is the very, very first thing that we have done for I&I online.
Yay.
Thank you so much for it. Thank you.
Thank you. And bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
So that was Richa Jha, and I know we've taken on a lot of time. I can see Niyati saying always a pleasure listening to Richa, and Ritvika saying they will live through their work. Children will always know their work and legacy. Srividya saying looking forward to I&I. All the books available at Funky Rainbow, all the delightful Pickle Yolk books available at Funky Rainbow, and a whole host of recommendations across 140 books, as my colleagues tell me. Venkat Lakshmi Vikram saying, thank you. Do consider a picture book filled weekend. I'm going to, are there any shout outs? Quickly, I'm just going to quickly shout out to a couple of more people who joined us. Our 5 at 20 offer is up on our Facebook page and on our Instagram page, so you can check it out there. But for a few more people who joined us, Punita Shivakumar, Asha Nehmaya, Tanushri Singh, Sumana Kundagrami, Sangeeta Mehta Bhansali, Sumi Chandrasekharan, Srividya Venkat, Jyoti Narayanan, Venkat Lakshmi Vikram, Annapurna Das, Anam Fatima, Niyati Sharma, Stuti Agarwal, Neha Jacob, Sirisha, the Infinite Seagull, Srividya Venkat, CG Salamander, EK Dali, Hiral, Maya Ashwini, and Sneha Veer. So many new names. Thank you so much for joining us at the Picture Book Bazaar. I can see Shubh SK saying, Love Richa for the person that she is. Thank you for joining us at another episode of our Book Bazaar. Do spend the weekend reading picture books, either by yourself or with the children in your life or with the adults in your life. There's no better way to spend a weekend. We'll see you next week with another theme. All the books that we've recommended and the ones that we haven't been able to speak about on our website, www.funkyrainbow.com. Please click on the banner, on the tab that says Book Bazaar, and, season 3. You will find all the picture book characters we love up there. Thank you once again for being there in such large numbers. Enjoy your lunch, and we'll see you next weekend with another bazaar. Bye bye.